Hello everyone, welcome to another LifeCast episode. Big thanks as always for all the feedback, the suggestions and just the messages. They've been really positive so far, so keep them coming. A nice one. This week, in fact I've not even ordered a beer yet, apologies. Can we get 2 beers please?
2 Madris. Cheers ads.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we have our beer, it is time for you, I think, this week to give us our topic.
It is, and this one is probably one of the most passionate things I think I could talk about on these podcasts. I think it's the thing that holds everybody back. I think it's the thing that stops everybody becoming their true self, reaching their potential. And the best people learn to deal with this all the time, and it's dealing with failure. So that's what I want to talk about this week. So, can you remember the first time you failed at something?
Good question. What the first kind of memorable one, or?
I'll tell you what mine would be, and then it might give you a bit of time to think. But I'll tell you mine was, I was in first year at school, played for the football team. We went in the last game of the season, and whoever won the league. And we're 1-0 down at half time, and with 20 minutes to go, we go 2-0 down. We're in year 7 now, whatever, first year when I went. I spent the next 25 minutes, half an hour of that game crying in the middle of the pitch. Just did. I couldn't cope at all with losing, and I couldn't cope with failing. And I remember that being the first time, and I remember feeling, I ain't going to feel like this again. It didn't, honestly, I was inconsolable. The next day, the teacher got me in and was like, I've never seen anybody so upset at not being able to win. Anyway, it didn't stop me, and it didn't stop me. I will talk very openly on this podcast about not all, but lots of things that I've tried that haven't worked out, and how I think it's a barrier to people moving on. But I remember quite clearly when I thought about it as a kid, it was just simply playing football and losing. Subsequently, we won the league the following year after, by the way.
I love how you need to get that in.
It had to get in, didn't it? I had to get that part in because it made me so much more, it's a team sport, right? But it made me so much more motivated.
That's a good one. The reason why I kind of second guessed what I was going to say was because it was like, I probably obviously failed a lot in school and stuff, but the probably first big memorable one for me was when I was 17 and I joined the Royal Marines. Now the Royal Marines is 32 weeks of basic training. It might have changed now, this was 2006 when I joined. But back in 2006, 60 guys aged 16 to 26 would join every 2 weeks. And if you took those same 60 guys and followed them the 32 weeks through training, on average you'd only get 7 or 8 originals because people would drop out, they'd fail, they'd, whatever. And so out of 60 guys, only 8 or 9, 10 maybe would be there 32 weeks later. So it was a big thing to be an original. That's what they called it. It was like a big thing. I'm 17 when I joined. Go through training. That week 15, you do an exercise called Baptist Run. And it's to kind of consolidate the whole of your learnings the first 15 weeks. And I failed this exercise and done a thing called, you got back trooped. So you go back 2 weeks in training and kind of do those 2 weeks again. And it's a bit of a shameful act. It's like, the walk of shame. You're having to pack your locker up because you're not going to then follow that troop through training, going back, a month or whatever it was. And I remember failing at this exercise. And you think, Royal Marine, I wasn't Royal Marine then, but I was a Royal Marine recruit. And I was sitting there on the phone to my dad, crying that I'd failed. And I felt a huge pressure. My dad was probably going around Bootle telling everyone I was already a Marine. And I just was thinking, I was distraught, Paul. I was absolutely devastated. I felt so embarrassed. But a bit like you, I was like, fuck this. I am not going back to Liverpool without saying I've passed out. And it made me so much more determined. And in many ways, it was the best thing that's ever happened. Because I went back the month, redone everything I'd done. And you know what? It was probably the right decision. Because I was a bit, I I wouldn't say immature, but I didn't really grasp what was going on properly and take ownership about it properly. I went back, done what I needed to do, and then another 15 weeks later I passed out, Royal Marine Commando.
Yeah.
But the first time I'd felt a real, I have fucked up here, I have failed miserably, was probably then.
Yeah. I remember I had a sport, my original degree was in sports science. I got a job as an accountant, and there was about 190 of us or something on these, like, on the accountancy qualification. But I was quite high up. I was probably as high as it got in our graduate scheme, let's call it. And you have to pass 14 exams after a degree to become an accountant. It takes, give or take, 3 years, 3.5 years. I failed an exam, right, on about exam number 9.
What, you had to pass all of them?
Yeah, you got to pass them all, right? But I mean, you can fail and retake and fail and retake. When I did it, you couldn't. The final part, you had to pass all at once, but you don't have to do that anymore. But back then, I failed an exam. I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. And I went in to work, and they said, these people going, I failed, I've passed, I failed, I've passed. So I took 3 exams and had passed 2 of them and failed 1. Couldn't believe it. I looked at the guy's face and he turned round to me and said, "You've failed, my boss." I couldn't even tell him I'd passed 2 because it was irrelevant. I'd failed 1 of the 3. And at that point I thought, that's not fucking happening again. That is not happening again. And the final 5 or 6 that I had to do, and that retake, I passed. And it was never close after that. That was the second time that I can look back and remember. And there'll be a theme as we talk about our lives and things, how they moved on from first failure to second, how there was a way of dealing with the failure that becomes quite consistent in my life for sure. So I'm interested to see about yours. Can you remember moving on then? You become a Marine. Can you remember anything? What was next? I remember you obviously the Invictus Games, you've got the world record. Can you remember anything around that time?
Another big one for me, that's, again, listen, there will have been many failures in between, but the big one that rings to mind straight away was, and I don't think anyone will know this, probably the first time I'm admitting it, maybe, I don't think I have before, but I talk so much about being this fastest one-legged man in the world. I attempted to break the world record a year before I did and failed miserably. And I invited Ian, the guy who got blown up from Scotland, him and his wife, his brother-in-law, his sister-in-law, they all come down from Scotland. My surgeon, who amputated my leg, came up from Plymouth.
To where?
To live up to Southport.
Oh, right, she's doing it in Southport.
Yeah, so it was just a 10k race. It's called the Mad Dog 10k in Southport, a race they do every year. And it was just a straight path down the coastal road, 6 miles, 6.2 mile. I thought I want to do it then. And I got my friend who's in the Special Forces, he come to pace set for me. I had about fucking 20 people there watching me.
What did you have to break, by the way?
37 minutes, 53 seconds.
You had to break?
I had to break
And
down.
had you done that before this race, so you got close to it?
I'd been training hard, and it was going to be like on the day if I do it, it's going to be like, not lucky, but it'll be like, this will be the first time I've done it, if you like. So you could argue, which we'll come back to what we'll talk about, is the prep weren't there. Do you know what I mean? It was not there. I was trying to cuff it on the day, let's put it that way. But I'd fucking brought like 20 people there, friends and family. There was a fucking news crew there. Fucking mate, everyone was there. And I'm not blaming this, by the way, but the wind, it was a coastal road, the wind was like against you. To put it into context, the guy who won the race didn't even break that time.
Yeah.
So it was a tough race. It was never going to happen.
Yeah.
But even if it was perfect conditions, I wouldn't have broke it.
Yeah.
I got round in about 41 minutes, and everyone's there, and everyone's trying to get photos at the end and stuff.
Yeah.
But I failed.
Yeah.
Failed miserably, Paul.
Yeah.
Miserably.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Do you know, next time I'm going to make this bigger and better. I might fuck failing next time.
Yeah.
And thankfully a year later, you know, we smashed it. We made a documentary. It was on ITV, and it all worked out well.
Yeah.
But no one knows I attempted that a year before and failed fucking big time.
Yeah.
My two best mates out the Marines were there watching me fail. Do you know what I mean? My surgeon was there watching me fail.
Yeah.
My family
Was he
was
all
there.
there in the end when you did do it? Did they turn up again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Support.
initially though, and no one knows that story.
Yeah.
And then maybe that's what we're both guilty of, you know, not speaking about the failures because, fuck me, I'm dining out on this world record fucking 6 years later. But I never mentioned the failure.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. What did you, there must have been something that kick-started a motivation. Did you feel stupid? Did you feel, go on, how did you feel?
So both times when I failed at the Marines and then I failed the world record, the two big drives, there's probably more as we talk will come out, but straight away, the two big things I can think of was an embarrassment.
Yeah.
And I thought, initially when I failed the Marines, I thought, my dad's been telling everyone, my son's going to be a Marine.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm not going around Bootle again saying, oh, Andy, you in the Marines? I was going to, but I'm going to do something else now. Nah, fuck, I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
So, embarrassment, I wanted to prove myself, and that was definitely one. And then, obviously, years later, at the world record, failed attempt, an embarrassment again. I told everyone I was going to do this thing. I failed miserably. And it was like, nah, watch this. Come again in a year, watch. I'll fucking do this.
I think
embarrassments, I'm proving myself to people.
There's also, there's something that you've put in there though, that's accountability. Because you could have turned up at the first world record attempt, right? You didn't know you was going to break. It's not like you was running 33, you had to do 37, you know. You'd not broke it, so you'd have to produce something. But you'd put yourself under pressure, hadn't you? You'd put yourself out there. We talked about on the Manifestation podcast. It doesn't matter whether you agree with it or not.
And that's where that worked for me.
Yeah. Tony Bellew put as well. Floyd Mayweather puts himself out there at the best ever for a reason. Is to hold himself accountable, and he tells everybody. And in that case, what you've done is you've put yourself out. It's a big risk, though, isn't it?
Oh, massive.
Because when you fail miserably.
Mate, so my friend out of Special Forces who'd ran with me the first time round, the week or the day or two before I'm due to do it the second attempt, which is going to be on TV, he fucking texts me, and he's one of my best mates, he goes, or rang me, text me, can't remember, he goes, mate, you best not fuck this up. Everyone else is being dead nice and that, and he's just my mate, he goes, you've been going on about this for a while, like, you cannot fuck this up now. And but I loved it. I was like, no, because I know I've put the fucking work in now. I've learned now. The prep's been right, the right people around me. I'm fucking smashing this world record. And it was good pressure at that point. What I think's dead interesting, and I'm dead eager to know your mindset on it and what you think on this, is, I'm not, by the way, trying to say me or you are better than anyone, but the two biggest failures I've got, I've thankfully been able to write them. So I became a Marine in the end, and I broke a world record in the end. There will be people, though, who sometimes have maybe had that kind of misfortune of not doing it, and I've went, well, it's not meant to be. That's just not me. And turned away from it. What do you think is it? Do you think it's something in you? Do you think it's something you've had to work on?
Well, when they thought it wasn't meant to be, they were right. Yeah?
As in it wasn't meant to be at that time?
No. Well, if they thought it wasn't meant to be and they left it, they were right. You know, if you'd have done the second one and got 43 minutes again, and by the way, you could have done it 3, 4, 5 times and then broke it on the 5th time. But if you walk away after 2, you was absolutely right. It wasn't meant to be. Do you get what I mean?
That's a good point. I've never thought of it like that.
Right. So the reality of it is it's got nothing to do with the fact that you might have failed it the second time. I think what your mentality to was that you could have failed it the second time for, I'd rather, over my dead body, is it going to be a 3rd time, so I'm going again. And you see that time and time again with people. We all fail the first time on lots of things, and we fail the second times. It's the people that fail 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Sometimes that end up in world domination, but it's their mindset to those failures. So your mindset to the first failure was, that's not going to happen to me again. By the way, something could have happened in that second one where something went wrong outside of your control. Now, if you give up, it wasn't meant to be, but you don't have to give up, do you? You can have that belief and that resilience that you need when you put yourself out there to go again, right? And so with me, that's what it is, because I can't even, somebody asked me, I do an interview every time we're bringing on a member of staff, which is why I wanted to do this podcast. Every time we bring on a member of staff at Sejulo, I have 15 minutes with every one of them before they join to say, this is the culture, this is the organisation, this is what you're going to be into. You got to know it's for you or not. I need you to know that. You're going to join and say, this was exactly what I said. You're definitely not going to join and say, I wasn't expecting this. And one of the guys that was being interviewed said to me, what have you failed at? And I looked at it was a Teams, this one for London, for our London office. And I looked and thought, where do you want me to start? Here. Do you know what I mean? Where do you want me to start on the failures? And it kind of threw me back for a while till I kind of composed myself to think of a failure I was going to tell him, because it could have been any one of 1,000. And weirdly, I was in the Manchester office doing it where we are now, and we have a Michael Jordan suite. And on the wall in the Michael Jordan suite, it's got the quote, something about I've took 9,000 shots, I've missed, 26 of the game-winning shots, and, my ability to continue to step up and take that shot is what made me succeed.
He got cut from his high school team, I think, as well, didn't he, Michael Jordan?
Did he? Oh, he got cut in a draft, I think,
as well. But for you, though, the success that you've had and the failures that you've had, do you think that's something that's in you? Do you think it's something you've learned along the way? Where does that come from?
I don't know.
Is that nature or nurture thing? What do you think?
It's a great question, that. I tell you what it is, though. I've never been... I've always had belief. I was going to say backed myself then, and that might have been incorrect, but I've always had belief that I haven't got the most talent. I mentioned this before in another podcast, but I think
I'll be honest, without blowing smoke up your ass, I don't know anyone who works harder than you.
I'm as hard working as anyone, I think. And so I think that will always overcome my failures. So I'll try something, and if it doesn't work, it won't get me down. I won't try it a second time. I was watching something on Matthew McConaughey just before we started this, as I was walking in, and it talked about, whatever happens, don't become that victim. Don't become that. It wasn't meant for me. Because you failed twice, it's not meant for you. Who says it's not meant for you if it's not meant for twice? If you genuinely believe that you've got the ability or the capability or the opportunity, there isn't a rule, mate, about it has to happen in your first 3 strikes or you're out.
No. Can I throw a spanner in the works, though? And this would probably be the only negative spanner I throw in, because I think it is such an uplifting podcast in the sense of me and you have accomplished quite a lot, I think, but speaking about all the times we've fucked up, essentially, there's a great saying which I got told once, and I want to know your reaction to it.
Go on.
The most determined woodpecker in the world, ain't getting through a fucking lamppost.
Yeah.
Someone said that to me. At what point you kind of go, this isn't for me, but it's like a genuinely, no, this isn't for me.
I think we've discussed, I think even this was on an early podcast, the 1 or 2 live casts we did. I think you've got to look yourself in the mirror and not lie, right? If somebody said to me, if I was coming to you now saying, I'm going to win, I don't even think it exists anymore, but I'm going to win X Factor, right? You'd have to listen to me sing Mr. Brightside once.
I've heard it.
Then you'd have to turn
I'll
around
tell you
and
now,
say,
yeah.
Paul, and by the way, I'm brutal like that with people. Yeah. I'm not a dreamer. Sometimes most of the time, I've probably got more of a reputation for being brutally honest than I am a dreamer, right? But I think if you look yourself in the mirror and you know who you are, you can lie to yourself. You can. But if you don't, I can sit here and look in the mirror and think, I don't think anybody's going to work as hard as me. They're not going to try have that toil as much as me. So I've got as good an opportunity or chance as anybody to say make it in business, right? And I can't even tell you how many businesses I've invested in that I've got wrong. I don't dwell on them.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm coming back to your mindset, because you're someone who, you say now you've failed multiple times, but what keeps that? Fuck it. I'm going again. I'm going again. Because I think that's the inspiring thing about this.
Remember when Stuart Pearce scored that penalty?
Yeah, and he goes
Wow.
mad.
Wow.
Yeah.
What would have happened if he would have failed and missed that penalty? What do you think he would have done? Because I think Stuart Pearce, if he had a chance, would have took a third. Because that's the kind of guy he is,
Yeah.
right? That's why, by the way, he scored second. Because if he was a guy who might, you kind of got that, you've kind of got that tenacity or that resilience, right? And I'm not the most secure person in the world. I'm going to be quite clear about this. I'm not somebody who's like manana. I don't care about people, what people think of me. I'm perfectly secure in my being. I can tell you now that's not true. But I'm also not somebody that's going to let my doubts, fears, rejection and failure get in the way when I can look myself in the mirror and think, you're gonna do this, Paul. You're gonna do this. You ain't gonna win X Factor. You ain't gonna play for Man United. You ain't gonna do all these things that are realistic. But when it comes to, in the end, what I've kind of excelled at in an environment, and I would say excel in the environment I'm in, if I'm being honest. But that hasn't stopped me failing. In 2008, in fact, there was a Sedulo version 1 that I did with a business partner. Didn't work out. We didn't get on. I was leaving a business. He said he'd come with me. It was 50-50. The business didn't work. I had to take on this one.
I think that will surprise so many people.
We had to take on this one. We had to pay off the debts of the old business and start this one. Right? That didn't work. Why didn't it work? Me and him didn't. After 2 years, we didn't see eye to eye. We was going in different directions. Is that a failure or is it learning? Probably learning when you look back now, because Sedulo version 2 has gone pretty well, right? But when it started to go well in 2008, we sold a business, a marketing agency. We got a big check for doing the build and the sell. And I'm 27, 28. The amount of money I got was like a small Little Woods Pools winner, something back in the day. You know, it was a decent chunk of money, and I felt, well, hold on a minute. My main business, Sedulo version 2, I run on my own, is doing well. I've just input quite a bit on this marketing agency. We just sold it for a lot of money. I've got this amount of money. What can go wrong? I invested that money in 2007, 2008. By 2009, it had all gone.
Wow.
All of it.
All of it?
All of it. Every penny. Every single investment I did, invest in a fashion brand, a bar, a chain of bars. I invested in a place in Miami, and I invested in a place in Mondrian Hotel in Miami, and that went completely peaked.
Okay, now that's probably another podcast story,
Right.
that.
And I invested in, I've forgotten, a Leeds business. By 2009, it had all gone. So we're back to the start. And so we go again, and in Sedulo, like, there's been a million things that have gone right, and I would say 50-50, right and wrong, a million things that have gone wrong. Wow. It didn't stop me, by the way, buying Leeds. I purchased a business in Leeds. I didn't have the money to do it, but I had the belief. Fortunately, they believed in us, and we made it work. But all along that way, there was a massive risk. Like at all points, certainly for the first 10 years, if we didn't get it right, it would have gone wrong, seriously wrong. And when it started to go wrong in the main business, we just found a way, a relentlessness to keep getting it right. And that's what we did. But then we started to invest again. We went on our second round of investing in, I like consumer brands. So we then invested in, when it went right the second time, gymwear brand. We invested in like a general, another, call it a fashion brand for it. They both went under. So we're on our third wave now. Because I said, I'm never doing that again. I'm never investing in another bit. But now we're on our third wave. We just invested in another 4 businesses. One on the Wirral company called Perfect Getaways, which I invested in when they had one shop in Little Sutton.
That's when I went and done a talk.
You did. Little Sutton on the Wirral. Then we opened up in Neston, and then COVID came, and we had to back that. We had to back that organisation because we just put the money in, and then you can't sell a holiday. And by
I
the
feel,
way,
by the way, I feel so bad talking about my failures and not getting in the Marines and not breaking a world record, and you're like,
investing in a travel company like a month before COVID or whatever. So you couldn't make that up. You couldn't make it up. And then the investment went from a certain amount to 5-6 times the amount we agreed to invest in because it's COVID. And I didn't want to see people out of work, and neither did the two people, Dave and Nicola. So we invested deeper and deeper and deeper, and you kept getting them waves of COVID again, and Spain had opened, then we'd be like, and then it would close again, it'd be like...
We said on the Loneliness podcast,
Jeez.
I fucking hated COVID. So how much you hated it.
Right, so then it was like, we back it, we keep backing it, because I believe in the team, I believe in the concept. You know, now we've got 9, we've opened up 9 stores, so we actually opened up stores during COVID. And we invested in a nutrition brand, and we invested in a sportswear brand that just, you know, that in the end we invested in, then we had to take majority share in. So all along the way, you've got these consistent, failure's consistent, Andy.
But what I think's so interesting listening about this is, despite these knockbacks, it's not deterred you.
No.
Do you not think that's a bit... I know loads of people who maybe risk adverse and be like, hey, fucking hell, this is God telling me that I need to stop fucking investing in businesses or something, or I need to go down a different route, I think. And that's why I was so interested to know, like, where's that? Is it self-belief? Is it, like, a work ethic? I mean, what is that?
There is a belief that if you work hard enough, you know, you've got to trust some laws of nature, I guess. If you work hard enough, in the end, you'll overcome. If you show resilience, in the end, you'll overcome adversity. You know, you're a living, you know...
And you say, I think you are, though, because there'll be a lot of people here who, listening to this, who've got business ideas, or they might already own small businesses, and they've had certain knockbacks, and they've had certain, oh, fucking hell, there's another rival there, or someone just opened up this, and they've just, to your many failures, which you've mentioned, yet you sit here as a really successful businessman. I think that's incredible.
Do you know, we have a Be The Standard, which is a leadership club for context of our sort of 25, you know, fastest growing companies. And we have speakers every week, and you come down, and we went to Iceland. That's just for some context. We had Virgin Galactic at the last one.
Amazing, UK. By the way. Amazing.
How many Virgin brands were on that board, mate, that don't exist today?
Yeah, so... I wish you could have been there. It was unbelievable. So basically, Richard Branson's right-hand man, Paul, got him in to give us a talk. And, you know, you think of Richard Branson and Virgin Atlantic. You think there's a few Virgin brands that you will know. You could probably name 3, 4, 5. There was 50 on the board.
Cola.
50
condoms,
on the board that he's tried
trains.
to set up that I've just gone to shit.
And how do you associate? If I said to you before all that, 2 months ago, I said, what do you think of Richard Branson? Success or failure?
Super successful. He's got his own island, Necker Island. He's fucking smashing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's, I think, like, it's so, not to laugh at your failures, but it is laughable to think that, you know, I look at you, you're so successful, you know, you're a good friend of mine, and I'm buzzing off you, you know, when you do well. But to sit here and actually joke and go, you fucked up a lot of times.
Yeah.
Some of them's not your fault.
Yeah.
Some of them's just some of them time and some of them. But to think that you've not been deterred and you just went, fuck it, I'm going again.
Yeah.
I think that's testament to you, that though.
And I'm telling you, that's a testament to everyone successful. Whether we look at boxers, how many boxers? There's about 2 boxers in the history of boxing that have retired without a loss. So if you open up businesses, you're going to have losses. So you look at Richard Branson, and he's super successful. The reason why he's super successful is because he's okay with the failures. He's okay with it, and it doesn't stop him. This is the key. He doesn't do Virgin Cola, lose against Coca-Cola and think, I'm going to try nothing else. He tries the trains. If that
British Airways goes against them.
He goes against them. I think Virgin Virgin Airlines are doing okay, but the amount of times he had to sell his record label to fund it. And just recently he sold his shares in Virgin Galactic, not all of them. He was saying on the day he sold his share to keep the airline afloat. So even the airline has gone up and down and up and down and up, but he still continues with that belief. And I think that is what, people from a working class background, this is just my opinion, I think we're indoctrinated to be risk averse. It's like my grandma used to say.
I was going to ask you to say this, please say it, because I remember the first time you told me and I thought, fucking hell, that's deep.
My grandma, and I bet there's loads of people listening, used to say, look after the pennies and the pounds look after themselves. And that is a working class philosophy. Rich people aren't looking after pennies, mate. They're not looking after pounds. They're not looking after hundreds or thousands, right? That's why they are who they are. So, but you've got to be prepared, I think, to go out of your comfort zone and out of wherever you're from, particularly if you're in working class. There'll be that temptation of society to drag you into not believing. You can't believe and dream. You can't dream. You've got to look in the mirror and think, Paul, you can't sing. You're not going to be a recording artist. But you can't look in the mirror and go, Paul, you're as hard working. You've got certain skill sets, let's call them. You've got a certain tool bank. You actually could be this and think, but I'm too scared to try. You can't be that. By the way, if you are, that might be okay. But you can't do that to your kids. The kids, your kids, you've got to give them. Don't give them the look after the pennies and the pounds, look after themselves. Don't diminish their dreams. Dreams is the wrong word, isn't it? Because actually, dreams without action are just dreams.
But their aspirations, don't discourage them. Tell them, look, you put the hard work in, you can go and achieve this. And I think what I've enjoyed most about this is I think the not being afraid of failure. We've kind of hit it from both sides there. My failures have been, and my successes have been on a really personal level. Wanted to be a Marine, failed first time. A month later, righted the wrongs, got in. I wanted to break a world record, failed a year later. Done it. Purely personal for me. You've spoken about countless business opportunities that have not gone your way. Things that have fucking hurt you really, maybe in the bank, they've hurt your ego, they've hurt your fucking shit. And yet
lifestyle. They've hurt my lifestyle more than anything. I mean, just on a general day-to-day. The pain is painful, but it's worth it in the end. The pain of, I don't even need to ask you the question. The pain of your first failure of breaking the world record was worth the motivation it gave to break it in the end.
100%, yeah. Take that every day. If I could take a spoonful of that, knowing that success would follow, I'd be doing it every morning. Every morning with my Weetabix.
Exactly.
And you know what I saying that I love is, your biggest fear is unfulfilled potential. There's so much unfulfilled potential in us all. Some of us, though, are scared of failing. And I think...
No. All of us are scared of failing.
All of us are scared of failing, but some of us don't then act upon it.
Correct. Some of us don't let it stop us.
And I think if you're going to take anything, it's that. I thought my fear of failure was quite all right on about world records, but then I listened to this man and I think...
I broke no world records.
Well,
so let's
I
get
know,
realistic.
but what you've done, mate, is pretty incredible. And you know what? I'd actually, and again, let us know what you think, but I'd actually quite like to revisit this one because I think there's a lot more kind of avenues you can go down on a more personal, on a specific note, because like business ideas where you've been like, this is work and this is work and this is work, and it goes tits up.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you deal with that specific kind of,
By the way, sometimes success happens and it's a bit of a case of be careful what you wish for. And that's definitely another podcast, because the fear of failure I think can lead to buoyancy. Dealing with success actually has the yin to the yang, and it's a bit more, yeah. Mate,
loved it again.
Loved it.
Loved
Thank
it
you,
again. Listen, I'll be deadly honest. I will continue doing these if no one listens, but I'm glad that you are listening. Please like, comment, get in touch, let us know what you want us to talk about next week, and thanks for listening.